So hiring a property management company. Now remember, in your resources is that book on how to hire a third-party property management company that has just literally every question you could possibly think of. I don't think there's a better book out there that you could buy and you guys have access to it. So here is a script. I'm not going to read this, but here's a script you could use when you're calling a property management company, but you got to start building these relationships, right? Here's the things you want to remember. You want to make sure they have an office or they have a regional manager in the area of your property. I told you that yesterday. Another thing that's very common is property management companies own properties. You want to make sure they don't own a property that's nearby. Because if they've got vacancy there, where are they going to send people first, right? Okay, very important. And again, they've got to manage the same size and asset class that you're buying. Super important. I've said that to you guys before. Otherwise, they will crash and burn. Okay, now, if you're hiring them right from the start, remember, they can help you with the due diligence. Now, I would recommend you, if you find out what properties they manage around, in the market that you're interested in, go mystery shop them. See if the employees there jump out of their seat to greet you. See how friendly they are. See how well run that property is, and you'll get a feel for the property management company. Do that for sure. Maybe even go through the rental process with them. See how professional they are. Okay, mystery shop them. Now, what will they help you with? They'll help you figure out market rents. They'll help you with rent collections. They'll locate and screen your tenants. They'll handle your leases, evictions, move-outs, maintenance. All of it, payment and expenses. They'll give you financial reports. So they do all of that for you, okay? Now one thing you want to do is you want to set a maximum threshold for how much they can spend without your written approval, okay? And maybe it's 0 right from the start, but anything under that threshold, they can go spend it. Now obviously if there's an emergency, they have to handle it and you have to give them that approval. But you're going to definitely want to stay in regular communication with them, okay? Ask lots of questions. Now, I would encourage you, especially on a larger property, to be a signer on all the counts. Now, if it's a small property, they're not going to do that for you. But on larger properties, 50 plus units, you should be a signer on the bank account for that property. Always get 3 bids on any large repair every time. Now, I would encourage you to pay bonuses for renewals, not for leases, okay? Because if it's for leases, then they don't care if somebody moves. Your highest expense is turnover. So you want to discourage people moving out, and you want to make surprise visits on to your apartment complexes once you hire them. I love walking into one of my assets and watching the blood drain from the team when they see me cross the threshold, and I've already looked at the property to see stuff that I'm going to bitch about, but you got to do that, guys. You got to keep them on their toes, okay? Now, here are some of the questions. Again, that book has every question you can think of, but here's some questions. When they're renting a property, what's their procedure? How do they advertise? By the way, I learn more from interviewing property management companies than just about anybody else I talk to in a market, because they really know it. Where do they market their properties? Because it's different in different geographic areas. How long does it take them to do a turn on a unit? Super expensive. Super important that you know what that is. If they take a long time, it costs you money. Okay, you want to know how fast they can turn a unit for you. Okay. When they screen tenants, do they personally interview the applicants? What screening steps do they use? Who did their lease? It better have been done by an attorney. When was it last updated? These are questions you can ask. Now, you don't ask these until you get more ingrained with them, but have them explain how they lease a unit. Do they talk to the tenant verbally? I find if you explain your expectations to a tenant verbally, you have much better results. And I've been doing this my whole life, okay? How do they handle maintenance and repairs? Okay, I will tell you, if you have a smaller property, you're going to be using their maintenance infrastructure, okay? And property management companies, maintenance can be a real profit center for them. They'll hire some kid at $15 an hour and bill them out at $100. So you want to dig into that, okay? Find out how they handle maintenance, do they use subcontractors? Do they have their own employees? How often do they do inspections? How do they handle emergency repairs? Who do they use to do the repairs? Are they licensed? Are they insured? Very important. Okay. Again, if they have their own employees, they can really hammer you. You want to dig into that. Ask the questions. Okay. What are their procedures regarding payment? What do they do when somebody's late? What's their process? And you'll learn what they do when they give a notice, when they actually file an eviction. How do they stay on top of the rents? Rents are going up all the time. And, how do they, what do they do? When do they do their market surveys, it's called, to determine fair market rent? How do they determine when to increase the rent? Okay? Very important questions. How regular are you going to get reporting from them? If you've got a larger asset, you should be talking to them initially every week, like we talked about. Then you can change the cadence, like Iffy said, once you're stabilized. But how do they like to communicate with their owners? Is it email? Is it text, phone calls? What should you expect to get in reports from them on a monthly basis? And here's what you should expect at a minimum: income and expense statement, a rent roll. What are the current vacancies? What are the delinquencies, renewals? They should prepare a budget for you, okay? You want to make sure they're paying attention to lease expirations and they're 2 or 3 months ahead contacting those tenants to renew those leases. Because what's the biggest expense? Turnover, okay? So you want to do everything they can to minimize turnover. They should give you a narrative of what's happening with the operations. I call it an exception report, an anomaly report. Anything that's going on that's unusual, they've got to tell you. So these are the sorts of things they're going to be doing for you. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now, we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.